they had a special meeting, and where, you know, plane pilots and people who work for NASA and you know, all these people that, you know, go on the spaceships or whatever, you know, astronauts that, you know, they all came together and they were talking about, you know, putting this out in the open, that they've experienced this and that, and you know, and they even say that there's 48, if I'm not mistaken, different species that the government actually, you know, bodies that the government actually has, you know, put away. What do you think about that? Is any of that true? What do you feel about ETs, extraterrestrials? You know.
Yeah, I think the way I look at that is more like a spiritual phenomenon.
Okay.
We live in two dimensions, or two realities. We live in this physical world, and in this physical world, there's all kinds of creatures, right? All kinds of animals, and including us, you know, human beings. Of course, we're different than animals, but we see many creatures in this physical world. The spiritual world or invisible world is just as real, but more substantial than this physical world. Also, in the spiritual world, there's many spiritual beings. You know? So, if these things were like physically, you know, I'm sure those people who have this kind of experience, to me, it's more like a spiritual experiences.
And they call it ET.
And they call it, you know, because if they were physical, anybody can see them. Everybody can see that. There are only few people, you know, have this kind of experience. Like, for example, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, there is a story about the prophet Elijah, who was walking one time with his friend Elijah. In the book of Kings, it talks about Elijah suddenly ascended into heaven, into the spiritual world, and the chariots of fire and horses of fire. You know, to me that is a spiritual experience. Also, people saw like Jesus ascending, you know, into the spiritual world, and so again, it's a spiritual experience. I don't really worry so much about you know, because if those are spiritual experience and people see this, basically they're not giving us any problem, you know. I think the thing that we have to worry the most is about us, you know, the problems that we have here on earth. I think if those beings or those experiences were actually, you know, harming us, like terrorism, for example, we have to worry about terrorism, or about criminals on the street. We have to worry about criminals, you know. Serial killers, we have to worry. They're very visible. But these are only few people, and not 3 or 4 or 5 people at the same time can see that. So a spiritual experience.
Some have, but
but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but I think because of the spiritual world is very, very real, you know, and some people have this kind of experience, and to see someone spiritually, it sounds so real, almost physical, you know. I personally had many experiences with the spiritual world, you know, and at one point I thought that they were like extraterrestrial, you know, but no, it's the spiritual beings, you know.
Okay.
That's my, you know, my personal.
Sure. And then, how would you explain, or maybe you don't even care to explain, these, you know, they claim that, you know, the government has these bodies, and if it's bodies, then it's more than it's also physical. In other words, you know, I mean, I don't know that that's true, but this is what they claim, and it's just, I suppose, interesting. Also, I mean, I definitely agree with you on. I actually think that they have nice messages. Most of these experiences, they leave nice messages for people. How do you explain the people who insist that they've had bad experiences with these
scriptures or these experiences?
What could that be exactly?
When we human beings have spiritual experiences, sometimes we have experience with good spirits, and sometimes we have experience with bad spirits.
Okay.
You know, I seen that. I seen people being possessed by evil spirits. You know,
Wow.
and so we can even see that recorded in the Bible. You know, so I think because in the spiritual world, you know, it's a lot of not only good spirits but also evil spirits. But they don't have a physical body. They can only harm us when we make common base, you know, with them, when we make a condition.
Right.
And then they can influence us and something can happen. You know, like even many criminals, like serial killers, like the Sam of Sam, or many others, when they've been, you know, suddenly caught and arrested and cross-examined, you know, the Sam of Sam, he say, it was not me, you know.
Yes, he did.
At midnight, he say, the devil possessed me through a door, you know. So that's his, and I don't think they're lying. Many people, when they commit crime, they say, I didn't want to do that. It was not me, it was the devil, you know. And actually, that is very common because it comes from the fall, you know. In the Bible, when Adam and Eve committed sin, God came to Adam. But Adam did not recognize his mistake. He never apologized, but he blamed the woman. And when God came to the woman, she didn't also recognize or apologize, but she blamed Lucifer, you know, which in the Bible refers as the serpent.
Right.
And nobody took responsibility, only God. You know. So yeah, people may have a good experience and some may have a bad experience, you know. It depends what kind of basis we make.
That's really, really interesting to me because, you know, some of the philosophical studies that I do and spiritual studies talk a lot about vibration.
Yes.
So when you talk about a common base, for me, I use the word vibration. So you're tuned in. It's like the way you tune into a radio station. You're tuned into that stuff, and be a good idea to try to tune out of that. I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. Actually, I just got something in my head. We were talking about Adam and Eve just now, and I guess just for the sake of the show or whatever, I thought I'd clarify it. Just from me, how I feel about the story. I don't take the story literal. I take it metaphorical, or like an analogy. So for myself, and I feel that the devil is sort of a metaphor for the ego. I understand that you feel differently about that, and one of the reasons also, I think it's a great metaphor for the fall. Or in A Course in Miracles, which is something that I study, we call it the separation. It means kind of the same thing, fall and separation.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think the story is a really great metaphor for that. Do I think it actually happened? Probably not. And if, you know, this was supposed to take place about 5,000-6,000 years ago, then we know through science that Earth has been around for a lot longer, that you know, we have the dinosaur bones, and we even have bones, you know, from people, you know, from very, very, very long time ago. That's not to say that there's no truth to either side here. That's you know, that's not the point. But just different points of views.
Sure.
You know?
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah. So.